Welcome to the Best of U.S. Investors weekly review, where we review the Friday calls. That's the Platinum call, and that is the Kerry's call at 3 p.m. Central. You can participate in the Platinum call if you join the Platinum channel, or you can participate in the Premium Plus channel where you get Kerry's call. This week, we are going to dive into the three pillars of what technology is looking like and what is the future in three companies who are going to change this world. Stay tuned. There are three parts to this next segment. There's Kerry's introduction of the three companies that are changing the world and that are going to be the three legs of the stool when it comes to technology. The second part is Mark going over those companies in the charts. So stay tuned for that. And then my segment of how to buy these stocks at half price today.
I had an interesting week. My my week was pretty much wrapped around Nvidia, and it was a lot in reflection to last week's call when Frank brought up the point near the end of the call of what should I do with my Nvidia, and if I can, I'm going to replay Frank's story as I remember it. He bought a substantial amount of Nvidia back in 2023, and he had a substantial gain. And his question was, with the earnings call, should I sell? And then there was some conversation around doing some option strategies. And I think the general consensus was stay with it. And I hope that's what Frank did. And hopefully he's here today and he can bring us up to date. But that got me to thinking a lot. And Brian sent me a link to a video. I think it was you, wasn't it, Brian, that relative to a conversation between Jensen Huang and Michael Dell and Bill McDermott. And when I watched it the first time, I said to myself, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. Did I really understand what I just took in? So I watched it again. And then I watched it a third time, and that time I recorded it. And I did a video around it so that I could share it with you all. And I think that video ran either yesterday or today. I have trouble keeping track of it. But the whole drift of that video was when Jensen explained that in the next 2 years, all the PCs in the world will be made obsolete. And that those PCs were going to have to be replaced with semiconductors of the GPU range. And in essence, he said, and I've chosen Dell to receive my semiconductors. He didn't say it, but what he said, what is implying is, I didn't choose HP, and I didn't choose Levino. I chose Dell, and that's who's going to get the semiconductors. And then he started using the phrase, and Michael is going to build an AI machine. And at that point in the conversation, the host took over, and Michael and Jensen turned and looked at each other and just smiled as big as they could, because what they knew at that point was they just introduced to the world that if you want to play in this game, you're going to have to play with Nvidia and Dell computer, or you aren't going to get it. And they just realized at that point that their net worth just doubled. Because then what was being said, the host asked Bill McDermott, who is the CEO of ServiceNow, what does that mean to your business, Bill? And the host said, because you have 25,000 employees. And he said, it means over the next 2 years, I'm going to have to buy every one of them a new computer, a Dell computer that has a GPU in it. And Jensen and Michael smiled again. This is Jensen going around building his team. It's almost like he's Nick Saban, and he knows he's got the best program and the program that everybody is going to have, and he's building his team. I went to his website after I watched the video, and I saw that on June 3rd, he is doing a keynote speak for the meeting of Snowflake. So he just picked another team member. And what he is going to do, and I thought, what is the analogy I can share with this? That everybody has compute, everybody has the internet, but if you want the next generation, you're going to have to buy their product. And I thought, well, it might be like we all have water, right? But somebody has just improved water such that you'll never get cancer, okay? But you got to buy their valve. You got to buy their valve, and it's going to come with in a package, and you got to buy it, unless you're just comfortable getting cancer. That's what I think they're doing, is they are going to create a group of people, because again, as Jensen said, and then I listened to Jensen's earnings call, and that is, there's two things I came away with. The first is Jensen and his group speak a whole different language than I do. They talk about in terms that I don't really understand. They make the statements of we're going to increase the compute power by 1 million, and we have they use terminology. But then what I took away from it was that every year we're going to come out with a better chip. And one of the analysts asked, let me see if I understand this. You've got is it the P100 that is available now to the gaming community, and you're replacing that with the P200, and that's what you're selling now. And then when are you coming out with this BlackRock? And Jensen said, well, that'll be out in fourth quarter of 2024. And then the guy said, and do I understand then you will outdate the BlackRock sometime in 2025? He said, yeah, that's right. We're going to outdate them every year. We'll come up with a better chip so that we, in essence, can stay ahead of the competition and have something else to sell you. And the guy said, well, how is that going to work? How are these data centers going to be able to buy the new chip within a year and pay for it? And he said, it will be so much better and more efficient and use less electricity that it will be in their best interest to buy it. What he didn't say, and this will keep Advanced Micro Devices out of the business, and we'll maintain control by upgrading the chip every year. So when someone said in the comment from that video today, yeah, but the Nvidia bubble will burst. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it will, because they are updating it constantly. So my goal is to buy Dell It's currently selling at $159.91. Its earnings call is going to be on May the 30th. So I may want to hope that hope that the rest of the world doesn't know what is happening, and because they haven't implemented this yet, that there might be a pullback. The Fibonacci retracement says that based on the last upturn, I should be able to buy it at 122. There's a gap at 136. And so in Mark's segment, I'd like to look at Dell and get some guidance there. I also want to buy, I didn't know who ServiceNow was. I had never heard of them. I had no idea who Bill McDermott is. And Bill McDermott looks like I guess, a 1970s rock star that's somewhere around 65 years old. And it's well-built, skinny kind of guy with a, I don't know, who's Randy Travis type haircut and wears shades. Really cool guy. You need to watch the video just to get in touch with him. But their stock sells, and when I Googled who is ServiceNow, Google answered me with the fastest growing software company in the world. And I thought, how is it I don't know about them? But I don't. They're selling for $740 a share. The Fibonacci retracement says I should be able to buy it at 733, and there's a gap at 702. But it's trading sideways, so I think it might be more buyable. But I honestly believe that there are about 4 companies that we've got to own, and they are Nvidia, they are Supermicro, they are Dell Computer, and this ServiceNow. And then I'm going to wait until June 3rd, and I own a piece of Snowflake. And the reason I bought that was it dropped dramatically several months ago when they replaced their CEO, a very beloved gentleman who started with the company and grew the company. And they brought in a guy's name I can't pronounce from Google, and he was the guy, if I remember, that was credited with building Google search and turning it into a profitable entity. And I said, this sounds like a company that, and then they laid off a bunch of employees and hired new employees. And I bought it just because I felt this is a company who is adapting to the times. I think I'm down about 10% on it. Their earnings are going to be terrible for 2024 and 2025, but I think they are somebody who is retooling their tool to take part. And then I was very gratified when I learned this week that Jensen is speaking at their June 3rd conference. That tells me again, Jensen is going around and blessing companies. He's the Pope. He is the Pope of the internet now, and who he blesses survives. And I would point to one company in particular who I believe just epitomizes that blessing, and that's Applied Digital Services. That is for any you look at that company and you would say that has to fail. It is a train wreck. It is a dumpster fire. It's everything that you want to stay away from, because it's a data center that was built, 2 data centers in North Dakota, That's enough to stay away from it. And they don't look like your normal data centers. They look like more like a one of your storage centers where you put all the stuff you'd want to get out of your house, but they're supported by wind turbines. And Jensen made the gift, not the gift, he promised this Christopher Gibson, no, Wes Cummings, all the GPUs he needed. And Wes went and sold his property, his center in Texas, where their headquarters are, and devoted all his attention and got financing from the Bank of North Dakota. And Jensen came through and gave him his infinity bands, and now that stock is taken off. And I wondered, what is Jensen all about? And then I read an article in the Wall Street Journal, and I got a view on who Jensen Huang is, who he is. In 1998, 97, 98, 96, the whole GPU gaming thing was coming to pass. And Jensen made the decision that his pixel was going to be in the shape of an octagon, an 8-sided object. Everybody else in the industry that was trying to build GPUs decided theirs was going to be in the shape of a triangle. The octagon did not work. The triangle did. And Jensen was in a position that he had two choices. He had to scrap everything he had and go bankrupt, or he had to raise $5 million. Now, he had done some work for a Japanese company in some other chip making capacity. And he contacted this Japanese guy and explained to him what was happening and that he needed $5 million. And he said he had never met this guy. He had only conversed with him on business basis. And the guy wrote back and says, I believe in you. Give me your account and I'll send you $5 million. Well, Jensen then restructured his business and went to the triangle. And that was the birth of the GPU that we know today. Last year, this guy is in his 90s in Japan. He writes Jensen a note and says, you may not remember me. I'd remember somebody who lent me $5 million. Because they hadn't had any contact. Jensen gave him shares. He cashed and guaranteed that he'd give him the $5 million, and the guy kept the shares. And he says, you may not remember me, and he reiterated, and he said, but I'm retired now, and I'm a part of a group, and we're having a conference. Would you come to Japan and speak to the conference? Within 15 minutes, the guy got a response and said, when do I need to be there? That's who Jensen is. And if you will remember that and judge all his actions, if you watched his meeting, he had a meeting where all the guys who started with him and have gone out and started their new companies, they're all pre-IPOs now. You watch those companies. Jensen will make them successful. Jensen has a heart as big. So what Jensen is doing now is going around and repaying all the favors, because he's got the only valve that can come to your house and cure cancer. he's got the product right now that can change the world, and everybody needs him. And he's making deals. You want my GPUs? This is the terms upon which you can have them. So watch him, listen to his earnings call. They're hard to listen to because he talks a different language, but every once in a while he tells you something you need to know. Like, we're going to change our chip every year. We're on a, what do you call it? A wave that every year we will change it such that we will stay the leader. That's all we need to know. Now, what we then need to do is build our portfolio. What I think is going to happen, I remember the birth of the Big Six. I got a comment that said the bubble's going to burst. Somebody's going to replace them. Oh no, the comment was, we're not all going to have to upgrade our computers. That isn't going to happen. I remember in 1998, I bought my first computer, and I went down and bought Windows 98 so I could have Word and Excel. They didn't have PowerPoint then, and I knew that I had the computer that would last me my lifetime. We're at the same place. We're at the same place. We're going to have to replace everything that we've got. And I know that because if you remember, I bought a new Dell last March. Not this March, but last March. The other day, when I'm on my computer under Google Chrome, I probably have 10 platforms open. I'm doing an Excel spreadsheet. I'm doing a Google sheet. I'm on my cheat sheet. I've got Zacks open. I've got other data centers open. And then on Bing, I'm following my stock market, and then I'm also running my Adobe to edit my videos. Yesterday, I think it was day before yesterday, everything shut down. Just shut down. Nothing worked. And what I knew was I had overloaded the capacity of my computer. And it's only a year old. I need a new computer already, but I'm not going to get one until I get a GPU. Maybe Michael will give me a trade-in. I don't know. So I'm so excited that I think I figured this out, and I can share it with you. And the other thing that excites me is what Frank told me. And then Big Bad Bill wrote me. Big Bad Bill shows up every week. He's here, but he monitors us. And he told me, if I remember right, on your recommendation, Kerry, I bought Nvidia. And I bought it for my wife. I bought it for my children, and I bought it for my grandchildren. And I've tripled my money. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. Brian sent me the video. I watched the video. I now share the information with you. That's what this is all about. It's not Kerry. It's a team. It's a team that works together to help us make better investment decisions. Now, some of you, like Margaret and Bob, you can get into this swing trading stuff. I don't have the time to do it. I make videos every day. But Mark is sharing his knowledge. And that's giving other people. I remember Zeke, I don't see him here, a couple of weeks ago said, yeah, I made a lot of money on Tesla, and then I lost it all. And now I'm making money swing trading, and I'm building my if we can teach you, and if we can learn together, and if we can gain strength together, we're going to win. Mark, I need to turn it over to you.
So Dell, and haven't looked at this for a long time, but this is a daily chart. Okay, so from a swing trading perception, we've just crossed over the intermediate resistance level, which is kind of my line in the sand. Where on a swing trade, I would get out. You can see we've had a nice run up. We would have gotten in back here in April for about 120 and would have gotten out probably here or here yesterday, right at 154. If we back it out a little bit, because Kerry's looking at more of a long term.
Yeah.
Let me just go to weekly, and you can see in the weekly chart we're not even close to an intermediate resistance level. We have some sell orders here, but for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, a lot of weeks we've been trading above the 9-week moving average and just bouncing off the upper Bollinger Band for the weekly chart. You can see that's what's happening now. We got a MACD on a weekly basis that's strong. We got a stochastic that's strong. We got an RSI at 77. Some people call that, overbought, but you can see for a long time that it's gone straight across. So that doesn't bother me that much either. So, if I were looking at this as an investment, I would look at a weekly chart and say, look, I'm above the 9, I'm above the 20, I'm above the 50, I'm above the 200. I got a Bollinger Band it's widening out to the top. I've got some sells there, and you can see exactly, where it closed right at where the sell orders were. And so Monday or Tuesday morning, you take a look and see where the sells are. You're running on the upper Bollinger Band. I mean, if you wanted to try to get in a better price, you'd put in a limit buy down more towards your first level of support here at the 9-week moving average at the 9.
What price is that? I'm not seeing.
All right here we are at 130.23. So anything above that.
Okay.
But you can see how it's gone between the Bollinger down, it's sitting in the middle, Bollinger. So I mean, here it actually hit. We'll see, but I don't see any intermediate resistance level. Here's our support level down here. So this has a little room to run, it looks like. But like Kerry said, you have earnings coming up. And personally, I stay out of earnings. I get out before earnings and let the market settle down. Now, Nvidia would have, been, not to my advantage, but for the most part, I always swing trade out of before earnings. So if you're long term, and I talked to Scott about this week on Google, and you have conviction, you've done your due diligence, and you really like the company, and his long term was 5 to 10 years. You can dollar cost average in if you want, or you can get in and if you're going to hold that long and you've done your due diligence on a long term investment, the price that you get in isn't as important as if you're swing trading, really.
Yeah. Look at now, NOW, please.
Yep, there we go. So this is on a weekly chart again.
Yeah.
So on this weekly chart, and we're talking about an investment, you can see it's come up, and this intermediate resistance level is a strong level for me, and it's hard for price to get by. You can see we came up here. This was in January on a weekly basis. Hit, got above. Next week down. Hit. So I mean, that's just how tough it is. And today you can see on a weekly point of view, we've closed below the 9, not a full candle below like here, but we're right here on the support level, which would be the 20. So this one's in a sideways consolidation pattern, and it's hitting right against the upper intermediate resistance level. Something would have to happen, kind of like an Nvidia, to make it move higher above that level. Let's just go to the daily chart, see what it looks like for ServiceNow. You can see on the daily chart, it took a dump today, had a gap right
Yeah.
here, went down below. We're below the 50 and the 20. 50 and the 20 are coming down. So swing trade wise, this is not where I'd want to be. I'm looking at a MACD that's going to cross negative. Already got a negative on the stochastic, and the RSI is going down below the 50. So you can see the difference between the daily, which is what I run on. I run on this for swing trade. So on a swing trade, we were basically on my trading guidelines, we'd have got in back here somewhere at 726. And we'd run it up, and I would have got out when it hit the intermediate resistance level at 758 or so. So we'd have made 20 some bucks on that one. And then you can see what happens once it can't really get past that, it'll come back down. So that's what we have there. Let's just look at Nvidia here real quick, since you're talking about it, Kerry.
Yeah.
And here's your daily, and you can see here was earnings. And we had a gap up on earnings, and now we're 2 days above the Bollinger, which this happens less than, stocks trade above a Bollinger or below a Bollinger less than 5% of the time. So I can expect that this is going to move inside the Bollinger at some time, but the Bollinger is still moving up. We have some sells up here, but I don't have any intermediate resistance level yet showing up. So there's some room, but I'm anticipating this is going to come back within this Bollinger. And if you were going to swing trade it, then you would probably have a better price entry point down here. But let's go and look at the weekly just to see what we look like here. And you can see we just on the weekly. It's interesting because look at the Bollinger. It just followed the Bollinger, followed it. And then we got up, and here's where the intermediate resistance line was. Okay, and we hit it, and we couldn't get past it until we had, a market condition, and it was known. And that market condition was the earnings, and it popped it past there. Now we have to see, is it going to continue to go up, or will it come back down in this resistance? And this is on a weekly basis. But this week we're above it. We'll see what happens next week, But right now, it's broken through, and we'll see if it comes and back tests that, or if it comes back, falls below it, or it continues along the Bollinger. But with this trend here, our Bollinger flattened out. So the question is, are we going to continue up, or is it going to come back down? We're having a little conversion. The bottom one's coming up. We don't want to see the top one start come towards it. So that means we're going to consolidate a little more. And again, this is the weekly chart. Yeah. This is more of an investor chart. And back here, if you were using guidelines on a weekly chart, you would have gotten in back out here at 483.35. And you didn't have a full close, anything under, and you'd still be in if you followed my guidelines to a T.
Dell's going to own this market. So that's a solid play. And then I got to thinking, looking at the price, and I'm like, oh, wow, it's $160 stock. Well, if I'm wanting to get exposure to this, but and I want to control, say, 100 shares of this, but I don't want to allocate $160 per share to this, how else could I do it? And that's where I thought, this is where deep in the money leaps, so 9 months or longer options, you could play this. And you could buy 100 shares, control 100 shares. You don't get voting rights, you don't get dividends, you don't get all that other stuff. But if you went out to June of 2025, you could spend $7,600 on the June 90 calls. And when I'm saying deep in the money, and the reason I'm saying this is because there's this thing called delta, and it's one of those Greeks that you hear about when it comes to options. When you have a delta of 1, it performs exactly with the stock price. So it goes up and down. Anything below delta 1, you perform just a percentage less. So if you had a delta of 0.50 or 50, you perform 50% of the price value of that stock. So if Nvidia or Dell goes up $10, your option theoretically should go up $5. So if you buy like a 90 delta or above, you're going to perform within 90% of that stock price. So I'm looking at this going, well, if I bought June 2025, June 20th, 2025, 80 calls on Dell, I would control 100 shares. I would spend today right around $8,300, and I could participate with limited risk, only risking that $8,300 versus buying the stock outright. And of course, I get voting rights, I get dividend rights, but now I'm shelling out $160 per share, which is what, $16,000. And for some people, that would be a lot of that. That may be a little bit. That would be their, a lot of their portfolio. So I was looking at this going, I like Dell, I like Nvidia, I like what these two companies are doing as a partnership, and this software integration element. This is, you think about all that from a business perspective, you have to migrate to this generative AI level, and you're going to have to upgrade your software level. So ServiceNow is one of those examples. What I got to thinking about was, well, yeah, but Nvidia is 900 and some, well, $1,000 and some dollars. That option on that's going to be, that's going to be a lot of money. Well, if I wait till the split, when it becomes 10 to 1 split, my option price is going to become really much more affordable. And so then I can allocate money to buying 12 months out, which is called a leap in the option world. The other thing I looked at was, okay, what about time deterioration? Because with options, as you get closer to the expiration time, your price value declines, it deteriorates into zero on the date. And so that's when I looked at the theta, which is the how much what percentage of on a daily basis is that option going to deteriorate. And in this case, it would be roughly 2% on a daily basis. So if the stock continues to perform, it'll outweigh the theta, and I could really bank some big money in a very short period of time in a very risk-controlled environment at this point. So that's what I was thinking about as I'm making dinner after watching that interview, thinking, how can I get exposure to these three companies without tying up, $100,000? If I wanted to buy 100 shares, I could do it with deep in the money options, and that could be do it, and I could control it. And the way options move, you get leverage. It's a 1 to 100 ratio. So if Dell goes up to 200, you get that leverage element, and you could actually profit very big out of this. So that's what I've been thinking about a lot this week, especially after watching that call or that interview, which I thought was hilarious because it was like three kids who were cheating like hell on a math test, and they're like, oh, we're in on this shit, and this is the bomb diggity. We're gonna smoke this teacher, and I really just walked away going, this is how I could play this, and I could limit the risk. And
Bob, what did you have on your mind? No, I agree, Dave.
Well, actually, I've got
Ain't
quite
my
a lot
game.
on my mind. And after coming off the last sermon that was preached by Trent on the mountain, let me tell you something, Trent. I 100% agree with you. And by the way, Trent, some of the other boys and girls that are managing funds are using these leaps. And I think what you said, you're nuts on. Nuts on. I would like to have you, whoever, pursue it. I've actually done a little dabbling myself. And this is going out to 2025, 2026. You can tie up a lot of less money, but you can also have a big kick.
Dell computers, hardware, they are the foundation of all of this. Nvidia, that is data processing speed, to be able to take an enormous amount of data and process it faster. And as AI develops, you're gonna need to have faster processing speed within your computer systems, which comes from Nvidia and Dell. And then ServiceNow, the integration from old software to new AI-driven software, from old data translated to new AI-related inability data. This is the three legs of the trifecta of technology right now. And these three companies are teaming up to make this happen. So you don't have to take an enormous amount of exposure because of what I introduced with deep in the money options. We're going to talk more and more about this on the Platinum channel. I'm going to give you ideas of deep in the money options with opportunities in companies where you only have to risk a small portion of your investable assets. Risk management is key over the next 2 to 3 years. Join the Platinum channel. We are running a special that is $45 a month instead of the $60 a month special. It's the Memorial Day special that will run until June 1st. Get on board the bus. Start taking control, risk manage, and become a better investor.